The Detroit Pistons get absolutely destroyed by the Philadelphia 76ers for their 21st straight loss. And the only thing of having to witness this loss against the Philadelphia 76ers is having to witness the exact same loss happen Friday night in just over 24 hours to the exact same team, to the exact same guy who had 31 points in the first half. It's getting bad, man. It's getting historically bad.
You are Locked On Pistons, your daily Detroit Pistons podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Johnson with 1 second to go.
What's the deal? Welcome back to another episode of the Locked On Pistons podcast. Per usual, I'm your host, Kuka Hill. You can find me over on Twitter at Kuka Hill. I want to thank you guys for making Locked On Pistons your first listen of every single day. We're free and available on all your podcast platforms. If you haven't already, head to the YouTube channel at Locked On Pistons. Hit that subscribe button or leave us a 5-star review on whatever podcast platform you're listening to this on. That's another great way to support the podcast. And today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. That's $150 if your team wins. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn today to get started. Later on, we'll be having some tough conversations, and I kind of regret even naming that segment Tough Conversations because I feel like everything about this season's been tough. Having to watch, every time we talk about the Pistons, every time I click this record button, it's tough. Anything involving this team is tough. So everyone should be used to it, but I think the conversation I'm about to bring up is one I think even Pistons fans probably don't want to have right now and are going to label tough, even compared to this season. And then also we'll talk about should fans be asking for jobs. We'll see what I mean later on. But first we got to recap this 76ers game. In this game against the 76ers, if there was ever a game that could accurately portray what it would look like if you took an NBA player and dropped them in an LA Fitness and let them play, I think this game against the Detroit Pistons is that game. That is the game that I think does the best job of showing what it would look like. Joel Embiid is great, okay? He's great. He's absolutely fantastic, okay? Obviously, he was MVP last year. He's great. He's great. In the first quarter, he had 19 points, 9 free throw attempts in the first quarter. In the first half, he had 30 points and 10 rebounds in 19 minutes of action. In the first half, he had a game's worth. He had a game's worth of stats in one half of 19 minutes of play. He didn't play at all in the fourth quarter. And in the third quarter, or not the third quarter, but after 3 quarters, he had 41-11. He played 31 minutes, but in just 19 minutes. In just 19 minutes of the first half, he had a game's worth of stats. And what makes it wasn't just the fact that he was scoring, and he put up the numbers. That's not what I say when I say, drop him in the LA Fitness is what it looks like. The Pistons couldn't guard him. Like, their best chance at guarding him was praying. That's all they had. They fouled this dude every time he touched the ball. Isaiah Stewart was in foul trouble after 3 minutes. James Wiseman came in. He immediately picked up 2 fouls as well. So now already in the first quarter, but before the first quarter is even over, both your centers are in foul trouble. Already. In the first half, the Pistons big men had a combined 5 fouls on Joel Embiid. In just the first half. In the third quarter, Stu picked up another foul on Embiid. And then James Wiseman picked up 2 more. So now James Wiseman's sitting at 5. Stu's sitting at 4. And then in the fourth quarter, he doesn't play, so that doesn't really matter. But as I've told you guys on many episodes of this podcast, the reason why teams foul, the reason why guys get free throws is because you cannot guard them. When you cannot play defense, you end up fouling because you cannot play legal defense. The Pistons could not guard Joel Embiid. Sorry, I hit my mic. could not guard Joel Embiid for the life of them. They didn't have any possible, not a solution. There's no solution to Joel Embiid, but any type of like NBA level defense. No, there was not even close to NBA level defense being played on Joel Embiid in this game. This was probably the easiest game Joel Embiid has ever played in his life. There was a play in the third quarter. Joel Embiid got the ball on a post up. I forget who it was that was guarding him. It was a switch. But whoever switched onto him just gave up, moved out of his way. He turned around, didn't dunk the ball. He did a simple little, Mike and drill layup, tapped the backboard, and then jogged back down the court. And they showed him. He started laughing. He looked over. He was like, "Are they guarding me?" Like, that's probably the easiest bucket I've ever had. Literally laughing that he was just given like the easiest layup he's ever had in his life. Like, the Pistons got utterly dominated against the 76ers. And this game showcases not only what I said earlier about the LA Fitness comparison, but the fact that the Pistons do not have a front court that can handle this kind of matchup. And to be honest, after 21 straight losses, they don't have a roster that can match up with any matchup, but especially one like this, because they don't have any centers on this team that are worth it. Isaiah Stewart had to play center this game, couldn't guard Embiid, and he ended up getting ejected for elbowing and pushing Patrick Beverley across the court. Then you got James Wiseman. Obviously, he can't check him. He's terrible defensively. And then they got no other options. They have no other options. So again, the issue that I have continued to bring up about the fact that Pistons did not acquire any big men in the offseason that could play defense, that could set screens and play rebound the basketball and just play defense. Low usage guys. They didn't get any guys like that in the offseason. And now every single time they go against any center that has any type of talent, any kind of offensive talent to them, they get obliterated by them. This game against Embiid was just crazy, dude. This game against Embiid, I couldn't believe, like, the game was lasting forever in the first half because he was just living at the free throw line. Just living at the free throw line because the Pistons had no chance at guarding him. No chance. I couldn't believe that he had 31 points at the end of the first half, or 30 points at the end of the first half. I couldn't believe it. It's just so bad, man. And they play him again on Friday night in a little bit over 24 hours from when I'm recording this. That's going to be lost 22. And I don't know what to, like, I tweeted this out. I don't know what positive to say about this team right now. There's nothing positive to say about this team right now. I've tried to find things to talk about positively. I've tried to find things that, to try to pull things away. At this point, there is nothing positive at all to say about this team. They got absolutely obliterated by the Philadelphia 76ers in a game where Tyrese Maxey shot 2 of 13. And it was simply because they couldn't guard anybody with size. Tobias Harris had 21 and 7 of 10 shooting. We already talked about Joel Embiid. And Kelly Oubre, another guy that I said the Pistons should have went after in the offseason, who signed with the Sixers for $2 million. $2 million. Was 7 of 9, 17 points in this game against the Pistons. And instead, the Pistons used $30 million on guys who are not seeing the floor. When they could have spent $2 million on Kelly Oubre to help fill out the wing and bring a spark. They instead decided, no, we'll take $30 million in empty cap space, basically, for 2 second-round picks. Everything about this team, everything about this franchise right now is just an embarrassment. Everything. Everything about this team, everything about the franchise, everything is just a straight-up embarrassment. It's just bad, man. It's just so bad. And to top it all off, remember that whole, when Bogey gets back, we'll really be able to evaluate the team because once he starts playing well, this team will really be cooking, man. It won't keep happening. Bojan had 33 points in this game. 33 points on 11 of 19 shooting. He was going off. And the Sixers' biggest lead was 30. They were up by 30 in the fourth quarter. So, like I said, Bojan wasn't changing nothing. Bojan ain't making that big of a difference to what's going on out here. Neither is Monty Morris. Neither did Isaiah Livers. We're watching it happen in real time. The guys on this roster are not good enough. They're not good enough. This is not good. Assemble. They may be fine role players elsewhere, but as they are assembled together, no, they're not a good roster. It's not good roster construction, And it's going to continue to get worse. Continue to get worse. And when we come back, we're going to have a tough conversation. I think it has to be had. I don't know how you don't have this conversation. Not saying you have to, what side you have to fall on with this conversation, but I don't know how you at least don't have this conversation after losing 21 straight games. We'll talk about what that is when we come back. But first, I've got to tell you guys about one of our sponsors, FanDuel. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any $5 winning moneyline bet with FanDuel. As the weather gets colder, and trust me, in Michigan it's absolutely freezing, the NFL offers will continue to stay hot on FanDuel as they get closer to the NFL playoffs. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action. The app is so easy to use, and there's a wide range of betting options, including spreads, player props, over-unders, and more. A few years ago, when betting became legal in Michigan, I didn't know where to go. I didn't know what app to check out. Didn't know where to go for the first time ever. And I chose FanDuel. I have not regretted that decision one day in these past few years. FanDuel, again, it's so easy to use. It's very self-explanatory. There's a ton of stuff to do on there. It's an amazing, fun app to use, especially if you want to get involved in some betting. So, again, like I said, FanDuel is the place to go. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and kick off the NFL season. Get started with the NBA season. Again, you get that $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 money line bet. If your team wins, again, you get $150 in bonus bets with FanDuel. Go to FanDuel.com/lockedon to kick off the NFL season and keep going with the NBA season. That's with FanDuel, the official partner of the NFL. So I want to thank you guys again for making Locked On Pistons your first listen of every single day. We're free and available on all your podcast platforms. If you haven't already, head to the YouTube channel at Locked On Pistons. Hit that subscribe button or leave us a 5-star review on whatever podcast platform you're listening to this on. That's another great way to support the podcast. No one's going to like this conversation I'm about to bring. No one's going to like this conversation I'm about to bring up. And I understand. I understand why, because it's more negativity, but it's just something that has to be talked about, I think. And I've reached a point, I don't know what side I fall on yet, but before the season, this wasn't even a conversation I was really entertaining. But now I'm entertaining it, and I don't know. As of what's the December 14th, I do not know where I'm going to find myself on. I'm undecided. And it's this simple conversation right here. The Detroit Pistons are entering, or not entering, they have entered a season, as of right now, where they are contending to have the worst record in NBA history. The worst record in NBA history that doesn't include the 66-game lockout, where the Bobcats, I believe, won 8 games. They are currently, again, I'm going to say it one more time, not just worst Pistons season ever. They are currently in contention to have the worst season of all time. They are currently battling the 1973 Philadelphia 76ers that won 9 games. Now, am I saying they are going to have the worst season in NBA history? I'm not saying that. Not saying that. What I am saying, it's possible that it happens. I don't know. It might happen. I don't know if it does or won't happen. But the fact that we are 23 games into the season and that's something that is on the board is not just in year 4. Let me make this clear. It isn't just the fact that it's year 4 of the rebuild. That's unacceptable at any point of your rebuild. For something like that to be on the board, not the worst in your franchise history, the worst in NBA history, for that to even be on the board a quarter of the way through your season, that is an embarrassment. That is a failure. That is unacceptable at any point of any point of your rebuild, your contention, whatever. It is the worst. There is no way that should ever be on the board. Along with that being on the board, the NBA's longest losing streak, which is at 28. The Pistons are 7 games away. They're about to be 6 games away after this game against Philadelphia tomorrow 6 games away. They are going to break the single season franchise record, which, by the way, isn't just a 1-season losing streak record. The single season one they already broke. The longest losing streak in Pistons history was between 2 seasons. So they're about to break the 2 seasons that spreads across 2 years in 2 months of basketball? In 2 months of basketball, they're going to break the Pistons' longest losing streak through 2 seasons in 2 months of basketball. And then, after they take down the Pistons one, they are going to take down the NBA's record for longest losing streak in NBA history. All these things, after 2 months of basketball, month and a half of basketball, is on the board for this season's Detroit Pistons. And with that being said, because that is what's happening with the Detroit Pistons, because that's what's happened with the Detroit Pistons this year, this is what has to be said. Pistons fans, look, I'm going to consider this me being early to the party. Because I think some Pistons fans may be willing to have this conversation. But I still think a lot of Pistons fans are not going to believe this. They're not going to even want to have this conversation. And that's fine. That's fine. Because I don't know where I end up on this conversation. But this is it. The guys that everyone was so high on, the guys that the fan base loves, the guys that the fan base thinks are so good. Time to have a conversation. I mean, if anybody else, by the way, before I even say it, anyone else outside the Pistons fan base heard me say this, they probably would start laughing and say, why wasn't this a conversation you had 10 games ago at 12-game losing streak? Why wasn't this a conversation once you guys were clearly the worst team in the NBA? Like, that's probably how they're acting if they were to hear this. But it is what it is. It's time to have the conversation. Are these guys as good as you actually think they are? And do these guys even have the chance to be as good as you think they could become? Because I'll tell you this right now. There have been some really bad constructed rosters. There have been some really bad NBA rosters in NBA history. There has been some really bad young players in NBA history. There has been a lot of there's been a lot of bad teams, bad players in NBA history. And not many in NBA history are going to do what the Detroit Pistons. Actually, if they break the record, the Pistons are going to do something no other team has done. And the NBA has been around for nearly 100 years, and there's been a lot of bad NBA teams. There's been a lot of tanking teams. But if the Pistons are going to pull this off, which it looks like they are going to do, I'm simply going to raise this. Is the roster construction bad? 100%. Do I agree with anything Weaver has done with the roster this season? No. Do I think they got enough wings? No. Do I think they went out and got enough shooting? No. Do I think they have the best, a good front court depth? Do I think they have a good front court on the roster? No. I understand all that, and I completely agree with all that, and I'm going to point that out like I have been for the last few weeks, every single episode. But what is absolutely impossible to ignore and absolutely impossible to act like is not true without you trying to look at this as rose-colored glasses and just try to look at everything positively and be biased. If these guys, the guys that everyone loves, the guys that everyone thinks is good, are good and can be just like stars, absolutely amazing. If those guys were as good as people think they are, you would not be on a 21-game losing streak. Now, I'm not saying they would be a play-in team. I'm not saying they wouldn't be a top bottom 5 team. Hell, I'm not even saying they wouldn't be a bottom 2 team in the NBA. But if they were as good as people think they are, 21 straight games would not happen. Breaking the NBA all-time losing streak would not happen. Having possibly the worst season in NBA history would not happen. If all the guys that Pistons fans think are great and love, if those guys were as good as they think they are, again, doesn't mean they could still be one of the worst teams in the NBA. They could be still a bottom 2 team in the NBA. Like, remember before the season, I did not think this team would be very good. I thought they would be around the 13th seed in the East again. That's what I thought they would be at. So that kind of seeding and that kind of season, yeah, you can see, roster construction can hurt that. Not being all the way there in your development, yeah, that can hurt that. Like, that can happen. I'm not saying that if they were as good now, you're making the play-in or anything. But just, again, if they were as good as you think they are, there is no way in living hell that you have a 21-game losing streak. There's no way in living hell that you break the NBA history losing streak. And there's no way you are competing with the 1973 Philadelphia 76ers to have the worst season in an 82-game history. Period. Period. I don't care what fan wants to say to me. I don't care what positive fan wants to say to me. I don't give a damn. I don't give a damn because you're wrong. You're wrong. If this is not at least a conversation to be had, you're wrong. You're wrong. Now, if you want to disagree after you have the conversation, I mean, sure, whatever. But for this, if you want to act like this is not something we should be at least asking ourselves, that this is not something that you should be at least confronting, you're out of your mind and you're blind. You're absolutely blind. Again, like I said, there have been some pretty damn bad bad teams in the NBA that haven't done what the Pistons are about to do, except the difference is the players on this Pistons team, at least 4 or 5 players on this Pistons team, the fan base absolutely loves and believes are the future. And a lot of those bad teams had non-NBA players from number 1 to number 15 on the roster. And a lot of those teams haven't done what the Pistons are threatening to do. Like, come on. I don't want to have this conversation. I didn't want to have this conversation. I believed in these guys. I still believe in some of these guys. But my belief system, my belief-o-meter was at 10, and now it's hovering around like a 4 or 5. You know, it's hovering around there. And I don't know how anybody can be higher than that after witnessing what we've witnessed so far this year. Again, has roster construction contributed to it? 100%. It's by far the biggest reason. Roster construction is the biggest reason. But if these players were as good as people think they could be and as good as they are, they would at least get 1 win. They would at least get 1 win. I mean, you'd see some 10-game losing streaks. Yeah, sure. Maybe 12. You know, you'd see that. You know, maybe they'd be one of the worst teams in the NBA still. Yeah, you'd still see that. But 21 in a row, about to be 22, about to be 28 soon in a few weeks, like all that, no, that would not be happening. That would not be happening if they were as good as people think they are. It's just as simple as that. And it is what it is, man. We got to have that conversation. We absolutely have to have that conversation now. That's where we've arrived. We have to have that conversation, man. We just have to. It is what it is. Let me know what you guys think. Comment section down below or over on Twitter at Kuka Hill. When we come back, should the Detroit Pistons fans be asking for jobs? Simple as that. Should they be asking for jobs? We'll see. And I'll tell you guys what I think when we come back. But first, I've got to tell you guys about one of our sponsors, Dave. At one time or another, we all need a little financial help. And that's why Dave is great. Dave can get you cash when you need a hand between paychecks and can help you build credit by settling extra cash advances on time. Finances can be so intimidating, and that's why you need Dave. Dave can make managing your money so much easier with an interest-free extra cash advance, fee-free goal tracking, and easy ways to find a side hustle to make more money. Dave is the banking app that makes leveling the financial playing field easier. When you download Dave, you can get up to $500 in 5 minutes or less with no credit check and no late fees. It's part of Dave's extra cash account. Advance the money you need with no interest and then settle up later. And you can even build credit up over time when you settle up on time. Millions of people have already downloaded the Dave app to make their finances that much easier. So if you're in a pinch, get the help you need by downloading Dave. Download Dave today at dave.com/LockedOnNBA. That's dave.com/LockedOnNBA. You could get up to $500 in 5 minutes or less. No credit check, no late fees. Download the Dave app now or go to dave.com/LockedOnNBA. For terms and conditions, go to dave.com/legal. Eligibility criteria and instant transfer fees apply. Banking services provided by Evolve. Member FDIC. Again, go to dave.com/LockedOnNBA. So I want to thank you guys again for making Locked On Pistons your first listen of every single day. We're free and available on all your podcast platforms. If you haven't already, head to the YouTube channel at Locked On Pistons. Hit that subscribe button or leave us a 5-star review on whatever podcast platform you're listening to this on. That's another great way to support the podcast. Let me make this clear. Let me make this clear before we go any further. Am I putting all the blame on the young guys? No, that's not what I'm trying to do with that last segment. And again, I want to make it very clear. I think roster construction is the biggest reason why this season has went this bad. But to act like the young guys are absolved of criticism, to act like the young guys shouldn't be questioned, the fact that the idea of how good they are shouldn't be questioned. After 21 straight games of losing and potentially hitting these records, is foolish. It's absolutely foolish to act like it's not something that could even be approached. To act like it's something that shouldn't even be on the table is crazy. People, you got, like, it is what it is, man. You know what? It is what it is. I ain't apologizing for saying it. I'll be the one to say it. I'll be the one to do it. I'll take the, the tomato cans and tomatoes thrown at me. It is what it is. I'll take it, but it is what it is. Should the Pistons fans be asking for the jobs of members of the Pistons organization? This would be a very quick segment. If they are, I'm fine with it. If Pistons fans are asking for people to be fired, I can't blame them at all. I'm not going to come on here and act like that's a lie. I'm not going to come on here and act like that's something that Pistons fans are overreacting to. They're absolutely not. They're absolutely not. I completely understand it. Makes sense. If you guys are wondering, cool, okay, since you want to dodge the question, when are you going to start calling for jobs? And that's the real answer here. That's the real answer I want to get through to you guys. And that's where I'm going to whip out this handy dandy notebook. You know what? Oh my God. I should have grabbed my handy dandy notebook in the background of my videos, from Blue's Clues, the one I actually have back. I should have had it and wrote on it. And oh my God, I've ruined this segment. This was going to be a really funny segment. Oh my God, I botched it. I botched it already, man. It was 2 minutes into the segment, and I botched it. How can I have not thought about doing that? But anyways, I'll try and make it as, oh my God, it's just not going to hit the same, man. This is not 2 straight episodes that I botched the final segment trying to be funny. The last episode, I tried referencing Tupac and Changes, and I almost said the wrong line to the song. I almost said the line that would have probably got me in trouble on here. And then now I botched this, but whatever. All right, but anyways, when will I be calling for jobs? I'm writing it down on this notebook I have right here. This is when this will be the first day that you will officially start hearing me call for jobs. For those of you guys listening on the podcast platform, I will be calling for jobs on Christmas Day. Yes, I am the Grinch. I am 100% cool with being the Grinch. I'm cool with being Scrooge. Like, I am 100% cool with being the guy who stole Christmas and made everyone else's Christmas a living hell. And honestly, you want to be honest, this is what I do. And this is the part I should have included. If they don't make any moves by December 25th, if everything is the same on December 25th, I'm firing them on Christmas as their Christmas present. And I'm not lying to you. I would do it on purpose. I purposely would make the deadline December 25th so I could fire them on Christmas to make it even better for myself. Like, that's what I would do. Like, I wouldn't. That's why I'm picking the deadline, because I want it to be Christmas. I want people to know that if you don't make changes, if you don't do something, I am going to wait till Christmas. And when Christmas comes along and you are opening presents with the family and you're seeing Santa and all that stuff, you're going to get a phone call. You're going to get a phone call that said, hey, hope you're enjoying Christmas. Don't come into the job tomorrow. Click. And that it is what it is. And it would be just like that. Over with. Done. And I would find some joy out of that. I'm not going to lie to you. That would probably make my Christmas. That would probably be a great Christmas present to me. I'm not going to lie to you. But yeah, that's when I'm asking for jobs, if you guys want to know. December 25th, if they don't make moves by December 25th, Merry Christmas, Pistons fans. I'll be calling for jobs. And honestly, I will make an episode. Usually I take Christmas off. I will make a Christmas Day episode of me just spending 30 minutes talking about why they need to be fired. I'll go through a laundry list of reasons, to be honest. Like deadass, we will do it on the podcast. Is what it is. December 25th. Start the clock. You got about 10 days. You got about 10 days, Weaver. You got about 10 days, Pistons organization, to do something to change this roster up, to change something and not allow this team to be the worst team in NBA history. Okay? I don't think that's a big ask. I don't think I'm being disrespectful by saying that. I don't think I'm being unfair by saying that. If you can't do moves that will stop this team from being the worst team in NBA history, I will fire you on Christmas Day. Or I will ask for you to be fired on Christmas Day. Simple as that. I don't have that type of power. I know some people think I do, but I don't. I can only ask for it. But it is what it is. Wrap up that podcast with that. Thank you guys for making Locked On Pistons your first listen of every single day. Free and available on all your podcast platforms. If you haven't already, head to the YouTube channel at Locked On Pistons. Hit that subscribe button. Leave us a 5-star review, whatever podcast platform you're listening to this on. That's another great way to support the podcast. Until next time, I'll see you guys later. Stay safe out there. Until next time, peace out.